What's good, y'all? I'm Marquise, and thanks for stopping by the Free Kunta channel, where I'm documenting my re-entry back into Pan-Africanism as an African American. Today's video, I like to talk about as African Americans connecting back to our roots. Um, Whenever we think about connecting back to our roots, we usually think about connecting way back to Africa, what was going on prior to slavery. And whenever we start looking, one of the first options we think about going towards is DNA. But DNA is only scratching the surface of our true history. For many African Americans, reconnecting to our roots is more than just percentages on a report. Like, whenever you think about reconnecting to our roots, we want to hear the names, we want to hear the stories, connect to the places, and the resilience on like what makes us who we are. So in today's video, I want to dive into why genealogy research holds more power over DNA testing when it comes to connecting and reclaiming our heritage and story, right? So the first problem with going straight to DNA is the testing is limited. So most companies will reveal your ethnic makeup and say you're 35% West African, 20% European, and like 5% Native American or something like that. And it can connect you to like modern populations. And that can be exciting. It was exciting when I first got my results as well. And it's the first step, like nothing's wrong with that. But it still doesn't connect you to what you're probably looking for. And some of these companies, they give you broad ranges, like it can be like West Africa, but West African can be Ghana, Nigeria, Sierra Leone. It doesn't really pinpoint you anywhere. And even when it does, it doesn't tell you anything. Like it doesn't give you what you're looking for once you start looking into it. So I can like briefly go over mine on like what it says and like why it doesn't. It means something, but it doesn't give you what you want. So for mine, I'm 25% Nigerian. So it says, right, 25% Nigerian, 7% Mali, 15% England and Northwestern Europe. You know what that's about. 7% Bantu peoples, 6% Ivory Coast and Ghana, 6% West Africa, Central West Africa, 5% Benin and Togo, 4% Yoruba land. Like, these percentages don't really tell me anything. And once you look into the many ethnic groups in these West African countries, like Nigeria specifically, like where most of the makeup is coming from on my side, it doesn't tell you much because of all the ethnic groups, and it doesn't give you a place where you can go and connect to immediately. So when I first got it, I was excited, and then I started looking more into it, and I was like, it's cool. Like, I take pride in it. So I'm not dismissing it at all. I take pride in it, but it doesn't connect me to a specific place in Nigeria where I can go and connect with my roots, right? And they don't give you like the exact names of your ancestors. They don't give you the communities that you belong to. And then on top of that, like the databases are always growing, so these percentages have changed. So when I first did it, my percentages for the Nigeria percentages were higher. And then over time, it's like gotten broken down into like these other small subgroups as well. So it's kind of hard. It's not nothing permanent. It's so temporal where it's always changing as the database grows. And for many African Americans who had enslaved ancestors, the numbers don't tell you the full story of like what they went through, how we got here, how we lived, how we resisted, and how we survived. So we can look into what genealogy does for us, right? So genealogy is going to tell you the family history, your family history, through records, documents, and stories that build a picture on who your ancestors really were. Um, so, first and foremost, you can discover the names, right? You can actually have names to the people that were in your family who actually lived through slavery, Reconstruction, Jim Crow, the Great Migration, like all these big events in African American history. Um, you can connect names to the people that lived through these things. And sometimes, if you're lucky enough, you can actually find out what they were doing or if they were involved in these big events during that time. Um, and a huge piece is you can tap into where your people are from. Like, you can find a place, a name, and like actually go there and physically visit. So you can go to like specific plantations, but you can get down to like the counties, towns, communities, and go back and connect. I'm in North Carolina. My people have always, for once I started doing my genealogy, I discovered that my people were always from Burke County and Caldwell County for generations. Generations. On my mom's side and on my dad's side, they're from Alabama, but my granddad ended up coming to North Carolina, and that's how I got here. But even even in the on my dad's side in Alabama, I know the specific town where they're from, um, and like that's a place I can actually go physically visit, versus just saying Nigeria. Like that doesn't tell me anything. Once again, proud of it, nothing wrong with it. I just can't connect to it. Versus knowing a name and a place, and it helps you understand your family's connections. So like who married who migrated to where, who served in the military, who owned land after emancipation. You can kind of see the lives that they lived. Um, and once you see those family connections, especially for African Americans, you see that we did value family. So as I go back on my records, I see that everybody was married back then. And now, the more recent generations, I kind of see that we're carrying our mother's maiden name and we're not marrying, which is another conversation, but it just kind of shows that we did value family and we still do, and we need to connect back to that. But when you're not seeing it around you in your immediate circle, you can always look back at your history and see like this is who we were and this is how our families were and this is what family meant. And then it's really dope to be able to see some of your ancestors who probably fought in the Civil War. I have records of that. World War One, World War Two. So you can kind of see what your ancestors were doing during these big events as well, and like what they were doing in their lives they were living. And most importantly, like it just gives you that context. So just knowing like I'm, like over 40% West African is great, but it's a different thing to be able to know that my great great grandfathers were in Alabama. Or you could look and see on the 1870 census, like your great great grandmother, on the 1870 census, she was 2 or 3 years old. Like she was born, well, more than 2 or 3 years old. You can see like she's 10, 12, whatever. She was born in slavery, and she's on the 1870 census, which is a huge thing. Like that's pretty huge and dope. And it gets back to like just helping us reclaim our stories, right? So whenever you start doing genealogy and looking into it, it's the tools that you use that give you the stories that you can start having the connections with. Um, so a few of the tools that we could use, because for African Americans historically, they try to erase our history and erase our roots, but there are things still there that we could use, especially in these times. You better use them while we can, because who knows what will happen to them with the current times we live in. That's all I'll say. So right now we have the Freedmen's Bureau records, and they documented newly freed slaves and their families. Also have like the Freedmen's Bank. So it's a lot of stuff you can connect to with the Freedmen's Bureau, where we just came out, and that was like due to the Reconstruction era. You can kind of look into it. Then we have church records, wills, probate documents where enslaved ancestors were named. So in those records, unfortunately, our ancestors were considered property. So they would be in a will if a slave owner died or passed away and they still had slaves. So who in the family would the slaves go to? Stuff like that. And then basically anything post 1870, like census, because that's the first time where black families were considered citizens for the first time. So you go to the census records, 1870, and that's a great place to start. Um, but it's not the end. People have been able to trace like the first African that landed here from their family there, so there's still hope. But that's a great starting place in the census records for us to use. Um, so these pieces of paper and documents and stuff can kind of give us a story on like where we're from and way more context and start building that story. And they can't really take that away once you have that. And that's something that they can't erase no matter how they want to try to retell the story because it's in your family and it's in your roots. Um, and once I started doing genealogy, doing my like family tree, looking into the history of it, I got that emotional connection that I really wanted. Um, Once again, doing my DNA was great, but and it was there. I felt it a little bit, but it's not like this is different. It's not like I could go to a place in Nigeria or meet Nigerians here and have a connection with them, like that emotional piece. Um, so once you're able to like know their names, see the lives they were living, um, some even have like or in newspapers. You get to see pictures. So, you know, if you're lucky enough, you could do enough digging. You can really see pictures and stuff like that, and that gives you that emotional connection that you were looking for. Especially if you can find like a picture and you see one of your ancestors, you can start to see like your face and their face, or like your mom or grandma's face and their face. Um, it's that like that's a powerful emotional component. And it's power in being able to speak your ancestors' names. And you can also recount their stories, and that's huge. And it's easier to teach your children when you have more context, detail, and stories and stuff that they can look at. So, um, when my son was younger, I was telling him like we're from Africa and we were like watching like small little videos and stuff like that. So he knew it was a place, but other than that, he had no connection to it at all. It didn't really mean much to him. Versus when we can drive up the road and every time we go visit, you know, like his family, go, you know, grandma and all that stuff. Hey, like this is where we've been from. These are where your people are from, and it gives him that connection, and he can still have those memories on. Like I remember going back to where my people were from, where we grew up, and where we've been for centuries. And it also helps you connect with distant relatives. I was actually able to connect to a cousin on my dad's side that's in Alabama. I haven't been able to have a face to face and meet her in person, but it's in the plans. But like that still is a possibility too, so you can see how big your family really is. And being able to connect to them can give you more context on like the stories on who the people were. Now that you have the names, now that you can probably see some of the faces, maybe you read some in the newspaper, being able to connect to them gives you those direct stories on like who this person was, or maybe they can send you to like a relative or an elder who can tell you who these people were, which is a huge connection. So that gives you that emotional piece that you're probably looking for that we don't get from like the DNA test. Um, and hey, being able to speak somebody's name, seeing pictures and stuff like that, that really hits that emotional sweet spot that you're probably looking for. Um, so, in conclusion, I would say that DNA tests are not bad. I am not saying that I'm not proud of these regions in West Africa where I'm from and where my people are, like originally from, and so where I can connect to, like when I think about like home in the motherland. Like that's still a powerful thing. I'm not taking that away. I'm very proud of that. all the pieces that make me me, I'm very proud of. Um, but it's easier to connect to something that you're a little more closer home to. And on top of that, whenever you do connect to like where you're from in Africa from here, it's like 400 years in between that time. And doing a genealogy helps you fill in the gaps a little bit and gives you that connection from here to here to here versus like you just have this wide space on I'm here and then 400 years ago. Um, so I challenge you as African Americans, if you really want to connect to your roots, maybe you've done the DNA thing, you're excited, you're happy with your results, but you still didn't get that fulfillment that you're looking for. I challenge you to start building your family tree and start talking to the elders in your family, start interviewing them because once you start doing the family tree, you'll start seeing names and trying to connect things and you talk to them. It's again, very great way to connect to your family, but it also helps you fill in the gaps and understand the stories on who these people were as well. And explore the records. And then then after that, you can use your DNA as a piece of the puzzle and not the whole picture. You put them all together and you see a better landscape on what makes you who you are, right? Um, so if you have done your DNA or you haven't, or maybe you've done both, I'd love to hear what you've used or how these things have impacted your story on who your family are, where you come from. So drop them in the comments and get a conversation going. Till then, love y'all. Catch y'all on the next one.